Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and I'm gonna go over Backlash 2022. 2 years out now because Backlash just happened yesterday as I'm recording this. Um, I wanted to watch an old one. I thought maybe watching some old premium live events and rating the matches might be kind of fun. If you guys are interested in that, just tell me and comment so I know. Because I like watching some of the old stuff because it's like you know some of the context of it, you know some of the just like oh, I know who's gonna win this maybe because it's based off of like the future, but sometimes you just don't. You could just get a good match because you don't have any parameters other than just watching them go. And right off the bat, we had Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, two guys who've pretty much main evented every premium live event in the last like year and a half. And they showed that this could have been like if somebody had a title, this would have probably been a main event. And I can't wait to hopefully see this at someday in the very near future, maybe even in WrestleMania next year for the title because they put on a show. They really know each other in the ring, it seems, and they really just had a good match. Like it seemed like everything that they were doing just looked really good, really well timed. I thought it was a great match. I know they end up having like three or four of these matches. I think it's three in a row, and then Cody gets hurt, and then they eventually, when he comes back, he has another match with Seth Rollins. I could be wrong, but this one was what had been the second one in their trilogy or whatever saga, whatever which way it ended up being. But it was great. I just think like a lot of the moves there and a lot of the just overall like storytelling that they had in the ring was really great. I'm gonna put in a great match. I think it was one of my favorites from this premium live event. It kind of was a shame that it was the starter because it was like everything else after that just had to take some time to get used to because it was just like it wasn't as good. And it went right after or right before Bobby Lashley almost. And Bobby Lashley tried to save this match. He tried to do his best out there, but when you got a kind of a stiff giant like that, it's just hard. Like it just feels hard with those type of guys because it's like they can have squash matches and it looks great, but like when they try to have like a full match with somebody that's a little bit stronger, it's just not it. And I just really didn't like it. I was a little tired also after um Backlash France, so I was like when I was watching this, I was struggling and I felt good right after that. Every other match was like it was just this one that just really wasn't my cup of tea. I'm gonna put it in bad. I don't think I would like put it lower because like I know what the idea behind it, and it seemed like the little bit of storytelling that they told ahead of time, and like the ending, it was like a good rivalry type moment, but it just felt that it fell flat. Even though I think Lashley tried to save it, I don't know, maybe I'm not a big fan of the Giants in general. I think almost like could be something good, but it's like I feel like some of the matches I've seen, which I haven't seen a ton of his, just I'm just not a fan of. I feel like he needs a little bit more work, and he seems to maybe be getting some work right now, so maybe that will help. Next up, we have AJ Styles and Edge when he was part of the Judgment Day. I think the story that they were telling in the ring was great. These two guys have a lot of good ring chemistry, and I think Edge really put on the match, and it made me miss Edge because it's like you don't know what you got until it's gone, and that kind of match, watching that match, kind of made me feel that way. And I wish like that Judgment Day storyline of him being in charge would have lasted a little bit longer. I know like in a context way it did last long, but like when you think about it in the long scheme of things, like he was already out and been gone out of this place by 2 years later, but Judgment Day is still around and it has different members. So this also had at the very end Rhea Ripley joining the Judgment Day. I thought that was a nice little twist. Um, it felt right as like kind of a introduction to a new member. We saw Damian Priest was still part of the Judgment Day. It was just him and that, and then Finn Balor came down when he was still a good guy. I thought it had some good spots. I think altogether it was a good match. I think like maybe possibly the reason I wouldn't put it in the great match, at least for me personally, was that like I felt that not knowing all the storyline and stuff, I don't. It's like it just felt like AJ Styles was like, "Oh, I want to have a friendly match with Edge," and then Edge is like, "I'm gonna kick your ass," and then it was like, "Okay, sure," and it just felt like that was kind of how it was. It was like Edge was going after his arm and all that, and I don't really like those matches as much because it's just like it feels kind of just off a little bit to me. So I'm gonna put it in good. I think it was still pretty close to great. Next up is Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. Now with my time frame of wrestling, like I watched wrestling when I was a kid, and then there was a good portion of time where I didn't watch it or I only saw clips or only certain matches. And I never have seen Ronda Rousey like a match from start to finish in a solo match. I've seen her in like tag matches with Shayna Baszler, and I think I've seen her, yeah, in a lot of different tag matches and stuff. So I never saw her solo. And this was an I Quit match. I knew no way in hell Ronda Rousey. I didn't know who was going to win this because, like, I know Charlotte has a title, and I know she loses it eventually to Rhea Ripley in WrestleMania, 39. So, like, I knew a little bit of forethought of where that match was going, but I kind of figured, I'm like, oh, it seems like Charlotte would retain. And then saw that Ronda Rousey was the baby face, and I was just like, she doesn't feel like a baby face. I think Ronda's ring work was, pretty shoddy here. And, obviously, like seeing some of the stuff that came from it, it made a lot of sense. I think Charlotte tried to save it, but Charlotte's character even seemed a little off with like having to go against Ronda Rousey's like good personality. I don't know why she's ever not a heel, but yeah, it was overall. I think the match was serviceable for what it was. The I Quit part was just not great, and but it did have some cool spots with some good submissions and some good just massive takedowns. They did give each other a beating, so I could appreciate that. The match itself was pretty good. It was just like the speculations, the kind of skills around everything else just kind of seem a little off. Plus, like when you have somebody that's very submission oriented, it just kind of felt like it was gonna, like you kind of get into those boring spots of like, oh, they're gonna just have an armbar war for 15 minutes, and it's just like, oh, you don't need that. Not 15 minutes, but you know what I mean. Next up is Happy Corbin at this time versus Madcap Mouse. Everything about this match just felt ridiculous from what they were wearing to a lot of the spots. I don't think it was the worst. Like they went out there and put a serviceable match, but this was like right before the main event, and I felt like I just kind of was bored with it. I think they tried. I definitely think they tried and did the match that they could, but for whatever they were allotted and for whatever storyline they were currently in, it just felt not it for me. It's gonna go in the bad category. I felt like with like watching these older matches, I'd have a little bit more hindsight of being like, oh well, because of what it sets up, it will be a better match. No, I just feel like it didn't really help me on that. I mean, obviously some of these storylines are not valid right now. Ronda Rousey's not on WWE probably ever again. Madcap Moss got released. Happy Corbin just got back to, or like Baron Corbin got just back to the main roster. So, yeah, some of these stories would have, it just feels weird that they were like in there. Next up, we have a 6-man tag match. It was the Bloodline versus Matt Riddle, or RK Bro versus with Drew McIntyre. I think the match was really good. Obviously, like it was classic Bloodline match where they were dominant, but like they were still trying to do a little bit of sniveling stuff. It's really interesting to see. Like I was like thinking about it. I'm like I've watched wrestling enough to where watching Jay for the last year, I've seen more Jay matches as being the good guy and not part of the Bloodline than actual Bloodline matches. So seeing him in the Bloodline was a little weird because it's like probably the opposite for everybody else. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I think we got some really good spots there. A lot of good like table spots. And I just, oh my god, it was crazy. Obviously, when you got Randy Orton in there with the RKO out of nowhere is always fun. Obviously, the Tribal Chief was not going to lose there, and it felt like that though. Like it felt like he wasn't going to lose, but like you had some inkling that like something could happen, like one of the other two might get pinned or something. And I think altogether, I think it worked out. I think the match itself was pretty solid. I'm gonna put it in the great category. I think the spots in there were really good, and it just felt like a very good classic Bloodline match. I could definitely see possibly these being very close to each other. Like if somebody swapped it out, said this match was better than that match, I could probably be talked into it, but they were pretty close. I still think this was the best match of the night. It was kind of weird that it was the opening match, but hey, it happens. But hey, if you guys want to see more of these videos, just suggest a pay-per-view down at the bottom. Especially if you want to put a list together of the tier list, I will even easier do it because then I don't have to make it. And if not, just throw one out there that is either notoriously good, notoriously bad, whatever, if you guys want to see that. And yeah, I have my GM series. It should be on This week will be different, but it should be normally on Mondays. This one might end up coming out on Tuesday just because of the heavy Backlash schedule of the review, and then I want to get this up there pretty close to Backlash too. But hope you guys are enjoying this type of videos. If you guys have any suggestions, just leave it down in the comments below. Bye, guys.